I never thought my life would flip upside down in a single night. When I woke up, sheets surrounded me with the scent of cedarwood mixed with something darker, something that made my stomach turn violently. Beside me, Erick still slept, his arm draped heavily across my waist, and I couldn't breathe, not from his weight, but because I remembered everything. Every touch, every whispered word, every moment I let myself forget I was a beta, and he was an alpha who could never truly be mine. I slipped out carefully, my hands trembling as I gathered my clothes from the floor. This was a mistake, a terrible mistake. Erick and I were just roommates. Nothing more. We split rent, divided groceries, and avoided anything personal. That's how it worked. Safe. Simple. But last night, after that stupid party, after too many drinks and his voice saying my name like it actually meant something, I couldn't stop myself. I let him pull me close. I let him kiss me like he'd been holding back for months. Now standing in our tiny bathroom and staring at my reflection, I felt sick. My face looked pale, dark circles shadowing my eyes. I splashed cold water on my cheeks, trying to wash away the memory of his lips on my neck. His hands gripping my hips. Get it together, Orion. I whispered to myself, it was just one night. He probably didn't even remember. Alphas like Erick didn't fall for betas like me. We were invisible to them. Convenient. Forgettable. I dressed quickly and left the apartment before he could wake up. Work became a blur. My coworker Mia kept asking if I was all right, but I just smiled and lied. I'm fine. But I wasn't. My body felt off, heavy, like something inside me had fundamentally shifted. When I got home, Erick was in the kitchen making coffee. He looked up as I walked in, and for a second something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Guilt? Orion, he said, his voice softer than usual. About last night. Forget it. I cut him off, my heart pounding. It didn't mean anything. The lie tasted bitter, but I forced a smile. Erick stared at me for a long moment, his jaw tight, then nodded. Yeah. Okay. He turned back to his coffee and I escaped to my room, closing the door gently behind me. 3 weeks passed and I'd barely spoken to Erick. We avoided eye contact, endured awkward silences. But my body was telling me a different story. Every morning brought nausea. Dizziness would strike without warning. My appetite had completely vanished. At first I thought maybe it was stress or perhaps some virus. But when the symptoms persisted, fear crept in. One morning, after throwing up for the 5th time, I sat on the bathroom floor, bewildered and scared. Betas didn't get morning sickness. Betas didn't experience this strange pulling sensation in their abdomen, this ache that wouldn't disappear. Yet something was clearly wrong. I searched my symptoms online and what I found shook me to my core. Pregnancy symptoms. No, that couldn't be possible. But doubt wouldn't let me rest. That evening when Erick was at work, I went to the pharmacy. I bought a pregnancy test, a small box that felt like it weighed a ton in my hands. Back home, I took the test telling myself this was just a formality. I'm a beta. Betas don't get pregnant. But when those 2 lines appeared, clear, undeniable, my world shattered. I stared at the test, holding my breath, as if looking long enough would make those lines vanish. But they didn't. They stayed there. Real. Terrifying. I was pregnant. A beta. Pregnant. Carrying an alpha's child. Erick's child. The test fell from my fingers and clattered into the sink. I gripped the edge of the counter, my knuckles turning white. How was this possible? Everything I'd ever learned, everything society had taught me about biology and hierarchy, it all said this couldn't happen. Betas were the neutral class. We couldn't carry alpha offspring. It was scientifically impossible, but the evidence was right in front of me. I thought about Erick, about how he'd looked at me that morning after, the regret in his eyes, the way he'd immediately wanted to brush it off as a mistake. What would he think if I told him? Would he believe me, or would he think I was trying to trap him, manipulate him into something he never wanted? Alphas were always paranoid about that. Their status, their genetics, everything was precious, guarded, and here I was, a nobody beta, claiming to carry his baby. He'd probably laugh, or worse, he'd be angry, accuse me of lying, of trying to climb the social ladder by latching onto him. I couldn't tell him. Not yet, maybe not ever. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my hand resting on my still flat stomach. A tiny life was growing inside me. Erick's and mine, created in one reckless night when walls came down and reality blurred. Part of me wanted to believe it was beautiful, miraculous even. But the bigger part, the realistic part, knew this was a disaster waiting to unfold. The next morning, I forced myself to act normal. I made breakfast, went through the motions of getting ready for work. Erick emerged from his room just as I was leaving, and we did our usual awkward dance around the kitchen. He grabbed his keys. I grabbed my bag. Neither of us spoke. "Orion," he finally said as I reached for the door handle. I froze. "Yeah?" He hesitated, running a hand through his dark hair. Are we good? I mean, things have been weird between us, and I just want to make sure." "We're fine," I said quickly, not turning to face him. "Everything's fine." Another lie. Everything was falling apart, and he had no idea. At work I couldn't concentrate. Files piled up on my desk. But all I could think about was the test, the lines, the impossible reality of what was happening to my body. Mia noticed, of course. She always did. "You look terrible," she said bluntly during our lunch break. "And you've barely eaten anything in days. What's going on?" "Nothing," I said automatically. "Just tired." She raised an eyebrow. "Orion, I've known you for 3 years. I can tell when you're lying. Talk to me." I wanted to. God, I wanted to tell someone, to share this burden that was crushing me. But how could I explain something I didn't understand myself? How could I put into words that my entire existence had just been turned upside down by 2 little lines on a plastic stick? "I'm dealing with some personal stuff," I finally admitted, "but I'll handle it. I promise." Mia didn't look convinced, but she let it go. For now. That evening, I stood in my room, looking at myself in the full-length mirror. I didn't look different yet. Still the same skinny beta with messy brown hair and ordinary features. But inside everything had changed. Inside, a secret was growing. One that could destroy everything if it ever came to light. I heard Erick's footsteps in the hallway. Heard him pause outside my door. For a moment I thought he might knock, might try again to bridge the gap that had formed between us. But then his footsteps continued, and I heard his door close softly. We were living as strangers now. 2 people sharing space but existing in completely different worlds. And mine was about to get a lot more complicated. I threw the test into the trash like it was evidence of a crime. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. This wasn't possible. Betas didn't carry alpha babies. It was biologically impossible. That's what everyone said. But the test didn't lie. Neither did the nausea, the exhaustion, the way my body felt like it was changing from the inside out. I couldn't tell Erick. Not now. Maybe not ever. He'd think I was crazy, or worse, he'd think I was trying to trap him. Alphas hated that. And Erick, he was different. Quiet. Guarded. He never talked about his family, his past, or why he lived in this cramped apartment when he clearly had money. I'd seen the designer watch he never wore, the expensive cologne tucked in his drawer. He was hiding something just like I was now. The next morning brought more symptoms. I was in the bathroom throwing up when Erick knocked on the door. "Orion? You okay in there?" "Yeah," I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just must have eaten something bad." Silence. "Then can I come in?" "No," I said too quickly. I'm fine. Just give me a minute." I washed my face and stared at my reflection. My face looked paler, my features sharper somehow. This pregnancy was already changing me, and I couldn't stop it. For the next 2 weeks, I avoided Erick as much as possible. I left early in the morning and came home late at night. I picked up extra shifts at work. Whenever we were in the same room, I kept myself busy. On my phone, reading a book, anything. Erick tried to talk to me, but I always had an excuse. But one night, as I was heading to my room, he caught my wrist. "Orion, stop," Erick said, his voice frustrated. "Tell me what's happening. Why are you running from me like this?" I looked into his eyes. Those green eyes that reminded me of that night, and my resolve almost crumbled. I wanted to tell him. I wanted him to hold me and say everything would be okay. But I was terrified. "Nothing's happening," I said, pulling my hand away. I need space." Erick's expression filled with hurt. but he let me go. I went to my room and shut the door, then sat on my bed. My hand automatically went to my stomach, still flat, but I knew something was changing inside. A new life. Erick's and mine. A few days later, an incident happened at work. I was organizing files when suddenly the room started spinning. Everything tilted and I tried to grab the counter. But my grip slipped and I fell. Darkness surrounded me, and when I came to, I was lying on a bed in the office clinic. Mia sat beside me, her eyes full of worry. "Orion, thank God. Are you all right?" "Yeah," I said, but my voice came out weak. My head throbbed. "We need to get you to a hospital," Mia insisted. "This isn't normal." "How long have you been sick?" "I'm fine," I said automatically, but Mia wasn't buying it. She took my hand and her voice softened. "Orion, I'm your friend. If something serious is going on, you need to tell me. I can help." I looked at her, her sincere eyes, her caring expression. For a moment I thought maybe I should tell someone. But how? How do I explain that I, a beta, am pregnant with an alpha's child? She'd think I was delusional. "Mia," I said quietly, "if there was something that seemed impossible but it was real, would you believe me?" Mia looked confused. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath. "I've been having symptoms, nausea, exhaustion, weight loss, and I took a test." Her eyes slowly widened as understanding dawned. "Orion, are you saying I'm pregnant?" I whispered, and saying the words out loud felt surreal. "I know it's impossible. I'm a beta, but the test was positive, and all the symptoms match." Mia's mouth fell open. She tried to speak, then stopped. Finally she said, "But how is that possible?" "I don't know," I admitted, tears filling my eyes. "But it's happening, and I don't know what to do." Mia pulled me into a tight hug. "First, we're going to see a doctor. You need a proper checkup. And then we'll figure this out." She took me to a clinic, a private one that handled confidential cases. The doctor, a middle-aged beta woman, examined me with gentle hands. She took blood samples and performed an ultrasound. When the results came back, she looked at me like I'd performed a miracle. "Orion," she said carefully, "you are pregnant. Approximately 5 weeks along." She paused. "This is extremely rare. Some betas have a genetic mutation that allows them to conceive, but these cases are 1 in a million. So I'm really pregnant?" I asked, still struggling to believe it. "Yes," the doctor confirmed. "The alpha's pheromone levels must have been exceptionally strong, and your body was receptive at that moment. It's a rare combination, but it's possible." Receptive. That word echoed in my mind. So it was my fault? My body that wanted Erick. "You have options," the doctor said gently. "But you'll need to decide soon because the window is limited. This is your choice, Orion. No one else's." I nodded, my mind numb. Options. Yes, I had options. But as I left the clinic and touched my stomach, feeling that tiny life that might be there, Erick's and mine, I knew. I couldn't make that decision. Not now. Maybe not ever. Because this baby, it was something Erick and I had created together, even if it was an accident, even if the circumstances were wrong. This baby was real, and I wanted to protect it. When I got home that evening, I expected the apartment to be empty. But Erick was there, pacing in the living room. He looked up as soon as I walked in, and there was something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Determination. "Orion, we need to talk," he said firmly. "Erick, I'm tired." "No." He blocked my path. "You've been avoiding me for 3 weeks. If I did something wrong, if that night hurt you somehow, I deserve to know." I looked into his eyes so full of sincerity, and something inside me broke. I was tired of hiding, tired of lying. "Erick," I said, my voice trembling, "if I told you something that would be hard for you to believe, would you listen?" Confusion crossed his face, but he nodded. "Yes, I'll listen." I took a deep breath. "Now or never." "I'm pregnant," I said, the words rushing out. "And it's yours." From that night, this is the results. Silence filled the apartment. Erick stared at me, his expression blank. Then he shook his head as if clearing confusion. "What?" His voice was barely a whisper. "I said I'm pregnant," I repeated, tears now flowing freely. "I know it sounds impossible. I couldn't believe it either. But I took tests, saw a doctor, and it's real, Erick. All of this is very real. Erick stepped back, his hand running through his hair. This can't be possible. You're a beta. Betas don't conceive. I know, I said. I know it shouldn't have happened. But the doctor said it's a rare genetic mutation. And somehow my body was receptive to you. Erick said nothing. He just stared at me like I was a stranger. Then suddenly he walked out of the apartment. The door slammed behind him and I was left alone. Alone with my confession now hanging between us. I sank to the floor, burying my face in my hands. Tears wouldn't stop, because I knew Erick didn't want this. He didn't want me, and whatever we'd had between us was now broken. 2 days passed. 2 long empty days where Erick didn't come back. I checked my messages constantly, tried calling him but got nothing. Just silence. And that silence told me everything I'd feared. He'd run away. He'd left me. On the 3rd day I forced myself to go to work, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy, but my heart wasn't in it. During my lunch break I went outside for air and spotted Erick's car in the parking lot. My heart stopped. What was he doing here? I approached the car slowly and he saw me before I could decide what to do. Erick got out, his face exhausted, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept. We stared at each other for a long moment, then he walked toward me. Orion, he said, his voice hoarse. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have run. Then why did you? I asked, hurt and anger mixing in my voice. Because I was scared, Erick admitted. Because all of this, it was so overwhelming. But I've been thinking. A lot. And Orion, I can't leave you alone. Fresh tears came to my eyes. Erick. No, let me finish, he said, taking my hand. I know this is complicated. I know it's scary. But this baby, our baby, I can't ignore it. I can't ignore you. But your reaction was wrong, Erick said. And I'm sorry for that, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. I wanted to believe him. I wanted this to be simple. But a nagging feeling persisted. There was something else Erick wasn't telling me. Erick, I said softly, if we're going to do this, I need to know everything. About you. About your life. Why are you here? Where's your family? Erick's expression tightened. He looked into my eyes, then sighed. Okay, he said. But we can't have this conversation here. Tonight. At home. I'll tell you everything. I agreed, though a feeling in my gut warned me that whatever he was about to reveal would change everything. That night at the apartment, Erick had me sit in the living room. He brought water from the kitchen, then sat across from me. His expression was serious, his body language tense. Orion, he began, I need to tell you first that whatever I say, it doesn't change how I feel about you and the baby. But you deserve to know the truth. I nodded, my throat tight. I come from a powerful alpha family, Erick said. My father is head of an alpha council. Basically, he's one of the people who decides how alpha society operates. He's controlling, manipulative, and he's planned my entire life. My heart sank. Planned how? Erick paused, then spoke. He arranged my marriage to an omega from a high-ranking alpha family. Her name is Mamie. The world stopped. You're engaged? Technically, yes, Erick said, guilt clear in his eyes. But I don't love her, Orion. I never wanted this arrangement. That's why I'm here in this apartment. I was running from them. I wanted to live my life on my own terms. Tears streamed down my face now. So what am I to you? An escape plan? No, Erick said quickly, moving closer. Orion, you're not an escape. You're something I never imagined I could have. That night when we were together, that was the first time I felt truly free. The first time something felt real. But you have a fiancé, I said, my voice breaking. And now I have a baby. Your baby. This is so messed up, Erick. Erick cupped my face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away my tears. I know, but I promise you I won't leave you alone. I won't leave this baby alone. We'll find a solution. I wanted to believe him, but reality was far more complicated. What will your family say when they find out a beta is pregnant with your child? Erick's jaw tightened. They won't find out. Not yet. We need time to think, to plan. but time that was something we might not have. And as I looked into Erick's eyes, I knew this journey was going to get much harder. The following week felt like living in slow motion. Erick tried to act normal, going to work, coming home, taking care of me, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the worry in his eyes. He was carrying secrets, and they were weighing him down. One afternoon, while Erick was at work, my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Is this Orion? A male voice. Cold. Professional. Yes. Who is this? I represent Erick's father, the voice said. We need to meet. My blood ran cold. I don't want to meet anyone. This is for your benefit, he continued. We know about your condition. We know Erick is involved. And we're prepared to make you an offer. What kind of offer? Money. A substantial amount. And a safe place to live. In exchange for one thing, you disappear from Erick's life. Permanently. My heart pounded. I would never think about it, he interrupted. You're a beta. You have no standing in our society. This child will be a burden to you. But if you accept, you and your baby will have a comfortable life. Without Erick's complications. Get lost, I said, and hung up. But his words haunted me. When Erick came home, I told him everything. His face filled with rage. They can't threaten you like that, but they can, I said, tears falling. Erick, they're powerful. If they come after me legally, I have nothing. Erick held me tight. I won't let that happen. I'll protect you. But how? Our every move was being watched. Every plan felt compromised. Later that week, Erick received a call from Mamie. I could only hear his side of the conversation, but his voice was tense, guarded. When he hung up, he looked at me with worried eyes. She wants to meet tomorrow. Will you go? I asked, my stomach nodding. I have to, Erick said. Maybe if I'm honest with her, she'll understand. Maybe we can find a way out of this together. But when Erick returned from meeting Mamie the next day, his face was stormy. He went straight to the bar and poured himself whiskey, downing it in one gulp. I watched, my heart sinking. What happened? I asked. Erick slammed the glass down. She's pregnant. My world stopped. What? Mamie is pregnant, Erick repeated, his voice hollow. 3 months and she says it's mine. But, how? I stammered, my mind racing. You said you never. I didn't, Erick said, frustration pouring out. We never. Orion, I don't know how this is possible, but she's claiming we were together once, months ago, and that it's my child. Truth or lie? It didn't matter now. Because if Mamie was pregnant and claiming Erick was the father, his family would force them to marry. And I would be nothing. Just a beta with an impossible pregnancy. So what now? I asked, my voice broken. Erick came to me, gripping my shoulders. Now we fight. Orion, I know this is terrifying, but I won't abandon you. I'll demand a paternity test from Mamie. If she's lie, and I believe she is, the truth will come out. But would the truth matter? Erick's family had already rejected us. And now Mamie was in the game too. A game I'd never learned how to play. That night, as I lay in bed with Erick's arm around me protectively, I realized something. This wasn't just about us anymore. This was about power, family, and a world that would never accept us. And I didn't know if we were strong enough to survive it. The following week passed in slow motion. Erick and I developed a fragile routine. He took care of me, cooked meals, accompanied me to appointments. To outsiders, we might have looked like normal roommates. But between us hung an unspoken tension, the shadow of Mamie, the power of his family, and the uncertainty of what would happen when the truth emerged. One afternoon, I came home early from work because the nausea had intensified. As I entered the apartment, I heard Erick on the phone. His voice strained. No, father, I can't come, he was saying. I have work commitments here. I moved quietly toward the living room, trying to listen without being seen. The wedding is in 2 months. His father's voice crackled through the speaker. You need to return for preparations. Mamie is waiting. Mamie knows I'm busy, Erick replied, frustration seeping into his tone. Stop making excuses, Erick. You won't destroy everything I've built. His father's voice turned threatening. If you don't cooperate, there will be consequences. The call ended, and Erick threw his phone across the room. I tried to enter quietly, but he caught my movement. Orion, he said, startled. Did you hear that? Some of it, I admitted. Your wedding is in 2 months? He buried his face in his hands. Yes. But I'm not going. I won't leave you. What happens if you don't go? I asked. Your father mentioned consequences. He always makes threats, Erick said, though doubt colored his voice. We both knew the truth. If Erick went against his family, the consequences would be severe. But what choice did we have? A few days later, while Erick was at work, the doorbell rang. I assumed it was a delivery, but when I opened the door, an elegantly dressed woman stood before me. Her appearance was flawless, perfect makeup, designer clothes, and an aura of superiority. You must be Orion, she said. It wasn't a question but a statement. My throat went dry. Who are you? Mamie, she replied, and my heart plummeted. Erick's fiancée. May I come in? What could I say? I opened the door wider and let her enter, my heart racing. Mamie scanned the apartment carefully, her eyes judgmental. So this is where Erick has been hiding, she said with a slight smile that held no warmth. Interesting choice. Why are you here? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Mamie turned to face me, and her expression softened slightly. I came to apologize, she said, and I was shocked. And to tell you something. Apologize? For what? Mamie sighed and sat on the couch, gesturing for me to sit as well. Because this situation isn't your fault or Erick's. It's our family's fault. A system that treats us like puppets. I sat hesitantly across from her. I don't understand. Erick loves you, Mamie said directly. I can see it. The way he talks about you. The way his eyes light up when your name comes up. And your baby. It matters to him. But you're his fiancée, I said, confused. An arrangement I don't want either, Mamie explained. Orion, I'm also an Omega trapped by my family's control. I'm being forced to marry Erick because our family's alliance is beneficial. But I don't love him. And he doesn't love me. Hearing all this made my head spin. So, what do you want? Mamie paused, then spoke. I want to help you. And I want you to help me. How? We have 2 months before the wedding, Mamie explained. If we use this time wisely, if we create a plan, maybe we can both escape this situation. I was skeptical. What's in it for you? My freedom, Mamie said, sincerity in her eyes. Orion, I also have someone I love, but my family has kept me away from them. If I can escape marrying Erick, I can live my life on my own terms. This was risky, dangerous. But did we have any other option? All right, I said. But I need to talk to Erick first. Mamie smiled, this time genuinely. Of course. But hurry. Time is working against us. When Erick came home that night, I told him everything. At first he was shocked that Mamie had come here. Then he became cautious. Are you sure we can trust her? He asked. No, I said honestly. But do we have a choice? Erick thought for a long moment, then nodded. Fine, we'll meet with her, but carefully. We met Mamie again. This time all 3 of us in a quiet cafe. Mamie explained her plan. She and Erick would continue wedding preparations publicly, but privately, she would build a case against forced marriage. Meanwhile, the baby and I would stay hidden safe. On the wedding day, Mamie said, I'll expose the truth. I'll reveal that this marriage is forced, that our families have manipulated us. I'll involve the media, create a scandal that will force our families to back off publicly. But that's a huge risk for you, I said. Your family. I know, Mamie interrupted, but I'm tired of being their puppet. And if I do this, maybe I can reclaim my own life too. We refined the plan over the following weeks. Erick maintained limited contact with his family, just enough to avoid suspicion. Mamie continued preparations while secretly gathering evidence. And I tried to hide, concealing my growing belly with loose clothing. But secrets never stay hidden for long. One day, while grocery shopping, I felt like someone was following me. I looked around but nobody seemed obvious. Still, an uneasy feeling persisted. When I got home, Erick was already there, pacing. Orion, we need to talk. What happened? I think my father has hired investigators, Erick said. They've been checking my bank statements, tracking my movements. They're suspicious of me. My stomach dropped. Meaning? Meaning soon they'll know about you, Erick said, panic in his eyes. And when they do, Orion, they'll target you. So what do we do? I asked, fear clear in my voice. Erick came closer and held me. We speed up the plan. Talk to Mamie. We can't wait 2 months. But when we told Mamie, she shook her head. I'll move as fast as I can. But I need solid evidence. If I act now without proper preparation, our families will easily control the situation. We felt trapped. But then Mamie said something that changed everything. There's something else I haven't told you, she said hesitantly. I'm pregnant too. Silence. What? Erick said, shocked. 3 months, Mamie revealed. And my family, they used your biological sample. Without your permission. My mind reeled. Wait. What? Mamie explained how her family, desperate for an heir, had used a private clinic. They'd illicitly obtained Erick's genetic material and performed artificial insemination on Mamie. Technically, genetically, the baby was Erick's, but without consent. That's illegal, Erick said, horrified. Yes, Mamie agreed, and it's perfect evidence. If I expose this, not only will the wedding be cancelled, but both our families will face legal trouble. It was risky, dangerous, but it was our best shot. All right, Erick said. We'll do this. But together, we'll protect each other. Mamie and I agreed. And in that moment, the three of us, a forced fiancé, a hidden beta and a conflicted alpha, formed an unlikely alliance. The following week was intense. Mamie secretly gathered documents, clinic records, forged consent forms, financial transactions proving the illegal procedure. Erick attended meetings with his father, acting normal while internally planning his escape. And I stayed home hidden, my belly now noticeably larger. I was almost 4 months pregnant, and hiding was becoming increasingly difficult. Mia still helped me, bringing groceries, occasionally accompanying me to checkups. One night, when Erick came home late, he looked exhausted. I sat him on the couch and made tea. What happened? I asked. My father is getting suspicious, Erick said, burying his face in his hands. He asked me directly if I was involved with anyone. I denied it, but he wasn't convinced. Did he say anything about me? No, Erick replied. But if he starts investigating, it won't take long to find out. Orion, I'm scared. If something happens to you, nothing will happen to me, I said, though I wasn't certain myself. I took Erick's hand. We're in this together. Remember, he looked into my eyes, then kissed me, soft, desperate, as if afraid it might be the last time. When we pulled apart, he gently touched my stomach. Our baby, he whispered. I'll protect you both. Within 2 weeks, Mamie called us for an urgent meeting. When we arrived at a private location, her expression was serious. I have everything, she said, showing us a folder. Clinic records, financial transactions, all of it. This proves my family used your genetic material without consent, Erick. So what now? Erick asked. Now we wait until the wedding day, Mamie said. When all the guests are there, when the media is present, then I'll expose everything. Public pressure will force the families to back off. But this is risky, I said. If your family finds out beforehand, then I'll act even sooner, Mamie said, determined. But Orion, you need to stay safe too. Until the wedding day, stay hidden. Nobody should know where you are. I nodded, but a bad feeling settled in my gut. Something was going to go wrong. I could feel it, and I was right. The next day, while I was home alone, Erick at work, the doorbell rang. I thought maybe it was Mia, but when I opened the door, a sharply dressed man stood before me. His presence was intimidating, his eyes cold and calculating. Orion? He asked. Though he already knew. Who are you? I asked cautiously. A representative of Erick's father, he said. I need to speak with you. I don't want to speak with anyone, I said, trying to close the door. But he placed his foot inside. This is for your benefit, he said. His smile fake. We know you're pregnant. We know Erick is involved. And we know you're trying to use this baby to your advantage. That's a lie, I said angrily. We're offering you a deal, he continued. Money, a substantial amount, and a safe place to live. With one condition, you disappear from Erick's life. Permanently. My heart sank. I would never think about it, he said, extending a card toward me. You're a beta. You have no standing in society. This baby will be a burden to you. But if you accept, you and your child will have a comfortable life, without Erick's complications. I didn't take the card. Get out of here, he shrugged. Your choice. But remember, if you don't cooperate, we can force you. Legal methods. You won't win this fight, Orion. He left, but his words echoed in my mind. When Erick came home, I told him everything. His face filled with rage. They can't threaten you like that. But they can, I said, tears flowing. Erick, they're powerful. If they come after me legally, I have nothing. Erick held me tightly. I won't let that happen. I'll protect you. But how? Our every move was being monitored. Every plan felt compromised. The next morning, Mamie sent an emergency message. We need to meet, now. We met in a secluded park. Mamie was panicking. My family suspects something, she said. They've checked my phone, tracked my movements. I don't know what they saw, but they're definitely suspicious. So what now? I asked. We have to advance the plan, Mamie said. The wedding is a week away. But I can't wait. Tomorrow there's a family gathering. I'll expose the truth there. But that's too soon, Erick protested. You don't have all the evidence ready. I have enough, Mamie insisted. And if I don't act now, I might not get another chance. We reluctantly agreed. The next night, while Mamie was at her family gathering, we waited. Erick paced anxiously, and I sat on the couch, rubbing my stomach, trying to calm the baby. Then Erick's phone rang. He looked at the screen, then at me. It's Mamie, he answered, putting it on speaker. Erick, Mamie's voice trembled. I tried. I told them everything. But they're not listening. What? Erick said. My father said it's all fabrication, Mamie said, tears in her voice. They dismissed my evidence. They said I'm emotionally unstable, that I need therapy. And now they're locking me in. I can't get out of here. Mamie. Erick, run, Mamie said urgently. You and Orion leave now, 'cause if you don't, they'll control you too. They'll hurt Orion. Please, just go. The call ended. Erick and I looked at each other, panic on our faces. We have to leave, Erick said. Where? I asked. Anywhere, Erick replied, just away from here. We quickly packed bags, essentials, documents, some clothes. My heart was racing. I was almost 5 months pregnant, and we were running, leaving our lives behind. As we were leaving the apartment, Erick took my hand. I promise you, Orion. Wherever we go, I'll keep you safe. I looked into his eyes that had become my entire world. I know. We got in the car and started driving, the city lights fading behind us. The road ahead was dark, uncertain, but for the first time in months, I felt free, scared, yes, but free, because now it was just us, me, Erick, and our baby. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. We drove through the entire night, away from the city onto highways, as far as we could go. Erick's hand gripped the steering wheel tightly, his eyes focused on the road. I sat beside him, my hand resting on my stomach, feeling the baby who now moved frequently. Where are we going? I finally asked as morning light began appearing on the horizon. A place I know, Erick said. My cousin has a cabin in the mountains. She rarely visits it. We'll be safe there for a while. And then, Erick looked at me, his expression determined. Then we'll create new identities. Start fresh. Orion, I promise, I'll protect you and our baby. No matter what. We reached the cabin by afternoon. It was secluded, surrounded by trees, exactly the kind of place where nobody could find us. Erick helped me inside. I was exhausted, my body aching. The cabin was simple but comfortable. Erick turned on the heater and had me sit on the couch. Rest, he said. I'll make us something to eat. As I sat there, reality finally sank in. We'd run away. Our old lives were left behind. Mia, my job, my apartment, everything gone. And Erick, he'd abandoned everything for me. Erick, I said when he returned from the kitchen. You gave up your family, your future, everything. Do you regret it? Erick came over and knelt before me. He took my hand. Orion, not for a single moment. Meeting you, loving you, that was the best decision I ever made. And this baby? He gently touched my stomach. This is a miracle. I'll never regret it. Tears rolled down my face, but this time they were tears of relief. I love you, I whispered. I love you too, Erick said, and kissed me soft, full of promise. Over the next few weeks, we developed a routine. Erick took odd jobs in the nearby town, cash work off the books, so nobody could trace us. I stayed home making clothes for the baby, planning a nursery. It was simple but peaceful. For the first time, we were happy. But peace never lasts long. One day while Erick was at work, I heard a car outside the cabin. My heart sank. I looked through the window, a familiar car, and out of it stepped Mamie. I opened the door, shocked. Mamie, how did you? Finding you wasn't difficult, she said. But her smile was warm. May I come in? I hesitantly let her enter. Mamie looked at the cabin, then at me, my larger belly, my comfortable clothes. You look happy, she observed. I am, I admitted. But you shouldn't have come here. If someone followed you. Nobody did, Mamie assured me. I was careful. Orion, I came to apologize. My plan failed, and you and Erick had to run. It wasn't your fault, I said. But I can help, Mamie said. I brought you something. She pulled out an envelope. Documents. New identities. Social security cards. Birth certificates. Everything you and Erick need to live in new names. I was shocked. How did you get these? I have some powerful friends who understand my situation, Mamie explained. They helped. And Orion, I also took from my family. My freedom. I told them that if they don't let you and Erick live in peace, I'll publicly expose their corruption. Finally they agreed. So, we're safe? Yes, Mamie confirmed. You're safe. You and Erick can start over. More tears came. Thank you, I said. Mamie, you've done so much. Because you deserve it, Mamie said. Both of you. And your baby too. When Erick came home and saw Mamie, he was initially shocked, then relieved when he saw the documents. This is perfect, he said. Mamie, I don't know how to thank you. Just be happy, Mamie said. And build a perfect family. Before leaving, she hugged me. Send me pictures after the baby comes, she said with a smile. I will, I promised. The following month, we officially adopted our new identities. New names, a new beginning. And when my delivery time came, Erick was with me, every step of the way. When I finally held our baby boy, his tiny fingers gripping my hand, I knew all of this had been worth it. Every struggle, every sacrifice. This baby, our son, made everything worthwhile. Have we decided on his name? Erick asked. Adoring our son. Noah, I said. It means rest and comfort, because he's brought us peace. Noah, Erick repeated, smiling. Perfect. In that moment, in the cabin, just the three of us, me, Erick, and Noah, I felt like we were finally home. Not with biological families, not with powerful dynasties, but with each other. And that was everything we needed. Months later, when Noah had grown a bit, we held a small ceremony, just us in the mountains before nature. We exchanged vows, promising to always stay together. There was no legal marriage, no fancy wedding. But for me, it was perfect, because I was with the person I loved. And together we'd created a family against all odds. And as I looked at Erick, holding Noah, the sun setting in the background, I knew this was our happily ever after. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And for us, that was everything. The cabin became our sanctuary. Every morning, I'd wake to the sound of Noah's soft breathing and Erick making breakfast in the kitchen. We'd spend our days creating memories, teaching Noah to walk, watching him discover the world around him, building a life that was entirely ours. Sometimes late at night, I'd think about the past, about that one night that changed everything, about the fear, the running, the uncertainty. But then I'd look at my family, my beautiful, imperfect, miraculous family, and know that every moment of pain had led us here. We were no longer defined by hierarchies or expectations. We weren't beta, alpha, or omega. We were just us. A family who chose each other. A family who fought for each other. A family who survived together. And in the end, that choice, that love, was the most powerful thing of all.